Welcome to Unsolicited Permission, the crown fixing podcast. I'm your host, Emily. This is episode 1. Who were you before mom became your only identity? If you're here, thank you. This podcast is brand new, and the fact that you chose to spend part of your day with me means more than you know. My hope is that every episode reminds you of one simple truth. You don't have to earn permission to take care of yourself, to dream bigger, or to become the woman you're meant to be. My hope is that every episode feels like the permission you've been waiting for. Permission to put yourself back on your own priority list. Permission to stop apologizing for wanting more. Permission to rebuild, to heal, to dream bigger, and to wear your own crown without any guilt. Now, I want to tell you exactly what this show is and what it isn't right up front. Let's be clear. This is not a show where I have everything figured out. I don't. I'm not going to sit here and give you a 10-step plan from someone who is perfectly healthy, perfectly organized, and perfectly at peace with her life. That is not me. That has never been me. What this is a show where we talk about the real stuff. Identity, health, motherhood, fitness, all of the things. What it means to take care of yourself when you're already running on nothing. What it looks like to rebuild your life and yourself when things didn't go the way you had planned. And why doing that, fighting for yourself, is not selfish. It's the most important thing you will ever do. There's no guilt here. There's no quick fixes. Just honest conversation. Just permission. So whether you're folding laundry, driving to practice, taking a walk, or maybe finally getting a quiet moment to yourself, I'm so glad you're here. Let's begin. I want to start with a question, and I want you to actually sit with it, not just hear it and move on, but really let it land. Who were you before you became someone's mom? Do you even remember who she was? I've asked this question in my community, in my coaching conversations and DMs, and every single time there's a slight pause. Sometimes the pause is only a few seconds. Sometimes people don't come back for a few more hours. Sometimes they don't answer at all because they genuinely don't know or remember. And I want to say something about that right now. That is not a character flaw. That is not a failure. That is what happens when you spend years, sometimes decades, giving everything you have to everyone around you while you slowly disappear in the process. Today, I want to talk about why this happens, why it matters more than you might think, and what it actually looks like to start finding yourself again. Not to go back. You really can't go back, and honestly, most of us wouldn't want to. But to bring her forward. To let who you were before inform who you're becoming right now. Because here's what I know. She didn't disappear. She just got buried deep inside you, and you're going to have to go find her. Let me tell you something that took me a long time to name. Motherhood has a way of doing this thing I call the slow disappearing act. And it doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual. It's quiet. It happens one small erosion at a time. You stop going to that yoga class because the schedule doesn't work. You stop listening to the music you love because the kids want to listen to the same song on repeat. You stop having opinions about where to eat because it's just easier to go wherever the kids are going to actually eat. You stop making plans with friends because childcare is complicated and, to be honest, it's getting expensive. And then one day someone asks you what you like to do for fun, and you genuinely cannot answer the question. And the thing is, nobody did this to you on purpose. Your kids didn't steal your identity. It happened because you were doing what you were taught. You were being a good mom. You were prioritizing everyone else. You were being selfless. And somewhere along the way, selfless became less self, less you. Now, I don't say that to make you feel bad. I say it because you can't change something you haven't named. And I think a lot of us have been walking around with this for years without a word for it. I want to take a moment to share a little bit of my story here, because this is that kind of show. I have been a single mom for 7 years. 7 years. And before that, before I was technically single, I was essentially doing it alone anyway. My husband at the time was in law school in New York while I was living and working in North Carolina and pregnant. He was home for approximately 65 days the entire first year of my daughter's life. 65 days. While I was working full time, then growing a human, and then taking care of a newborn alone in a state that wasn't home. And then just before my daughter's second birthday, I decided to file for divorce. I want to be clear about something. That was the right decision. It was also one of the hardest things I've ever done. I've tried dating since then. I'm in my early 40s now with 2 kids, 9 and 4, one of whom is a competitive gymnast, which if you know anything about gymnastics, you know that is basically a second job in terms of the schedule alone. I'm in graduate school working toward a master's in public health. I'm building a business and I'm managing a chronic health condition called idiopathic intracranial hypertension, or IIH, because let's admit it, that's a mouthful. It affects the pressure on my brain, which limits what my body can do physically, and it requires me to approach my health in a way that is completely different from what I've been doing before my diagnosis. Dating in my early 40s with all of that on my plate, I decided I'd rather wait for something real than settle for something convenient. And honestly, life is actually easier on my own than it was when I was trying to make something work that wasn't working. That's not resignation or bitterness or settlement. That's clarity. But here's where my story connects to what this show is actually about. Somewhere in the middle of all of that, the divorce, the solo parenting, the health diagnosis, grad school, starting a business, gymnastics competitions, cooking, homework, laundry, and trying to be the emotional support of mom and dad and everything else, I completely lost myself. I don't mean I got a little busy and forgot to journal. I mean, I looked up one day and could not tell you a single thing about who Emily was outside of what she did for other people. I daily battle with depression and try to cope with my anxiety. I've lost weight, gained it back, lost it, gained it back, been on that whole roller coaster. I have not had this thing figured out. I do not have it all figured out now. But that is exactly why I'm building this business. This is exactly why this podcast exists. Not because I arrived somewhere or became the all-knowing guru of how to be the perfect mom. Because I'm in the middle of the same journey you're in. Because I know what it feels like to be running completely on empty with no one coming to save you. I know what it feels like to finally decide I am going to save myself. The art of saving myself is not going perfectly. It's also not all happening at once or overnight. It's just one small decision at a time. Here's what I have learned. And this is really the heart of everything we're going to talk about on this show. Your identity and your health are not separate things. When you lose yourself, when that slow disappearing act has been happening for so long that you can't remember who you were outside of your role as a mom, you also lose the motivation to take care of yourself. And that is not weakness. That is not laziness. That is completely and entirely logical. Let's be honest. Why would you invest in something you've forgotten exists? Every health goal, every intention to eat better or to move more or drink more water, it requires a you at the center of it. It requires a person who believes she is worth the investment. Someone who can picture a future version of herself and actually want to move toward her. If you spent years slowly disappearing, if mom is the only identity you're operating from, there is no vision to move toward. There's just another item on a to-do list that keeps sliding to tomorrow. Reclaiming your identity is not the reward you get after you reach your health goals. It's not something you earn when things calm down, when the kids grow up, when you have an empty house. It is the foundation that everything else gets built on. You have to find her first. And then the rest, the habits, the consistency, the showing up for yourself gets so much easier. I want to leave you with something to actually do with this episode. Something to sit with tonight when the house is quiet, or as quiet as it's going to get. Ask yourself this. Before mom, What did you love? What lit you up? What did you dream about? Now, we're not trying to go back to that person we were before mom, before we had kids. You're grown, you've changed, you've been through things that have made you who you are. And that is something. But that woman who existed before everything got heavy, she has things for you. She has clues, she has pieces of you that have been dormant for a while, but are absolutely, completely still there. So, what are they? When I asked myself that question, some of the answers surprised me. And if I'm being honest, some of them made me a little sad because it has been so long. But you have to keep in mind, they are not gone, and you aren't gone either. And unfortunately, that is where we're going to end today. Because before we talk about changing habits, health, routines, we have to remember who's underneath all of this. If this felt like it was for you, if you heard something today that made you feel a little less alone, I would love to hear about it. Feel free to come find us in the Mom Stroke Crown Club on Facebook. It's free. And I would love to hear your answer to that question. Come tell us, who were you before? And if you want to go a little bit deeper, I have a free quiz linked in the show notes and in my Instagram bio. It's called the Identity Quiz. It will tell you exactly where you are and what you need most right now. Go take it. It's free, and it might surprise you. Also, keep in mind, new episodes are going to drop every week. Next week, we're talking about small changes, especially why one tiny shift can change the entire trajectory of your health journey. I can't wait to share it with you. Until then, take care of yourself. Not because you have extra time or because everything else is handled. Take care of yourself because you matter, because your kids are watching, because the woman you're becoming is worth fighting for. You don't need anyone's permission, but just in case no one said it lately, you have mine. See you next week.